The Packers were 4-6 before going on an 8-game win streak and ultimately getting embarrassed in the NFC Championship game in Atlanta. But keep in mind, Green Bay was decimated by injuries. However, their coach, Mike McCarthy, is looking at the bright side, saying their season was still a success.
I would say our team clearly had a successful season, without a doubt. I don't even know why we're even questioning that. I don't think, I don't look at this business as far as a black or white, but I mean, everybody wants the ultimate goal with what Atlanta and New England's playing for. So, and with that, and fully recognize that when you don't reach that goal, there comes criticism and opinions, which we fully accept and understand. It's part of our industries. But we had a successful season, but we did not reach the ultimate goal of winning the Super Bowl.
Our quarterback Donovan McNabb is still with us. Max, going to start with you here, though. How should Aaron Rodgers feel about this?
Is this a trick question? He should feel great about it. I mean, from 4-6 to 1 game away from the Super Bowl with an undermanned roster, particularly in the secondary, and then a very injured roster. You think about this season, how far did they get? Okay, 1 game away from the big game. That, only a couple teams, 4 teams exactly, 3 teams, well, 2 you could argue, are happier than the Green Bay Packers right now. And then the question is, what kind of season did they have historically? Like, how will we remember this? To tell you the truth, so far, unless Tom Brady wins the Super Bowl and they hand him the, and Goodell has to hand him the trophy, that we'll remember. But so far this season, the thing we will remember of all the games played is Aaron Rodgers' miracle comeback against the Cowboys, the way he won that game. That's what we're going to remember. We're going to remember the 4-6 start, the run-the-table talk, the making good on that promise. And I, as a Giants fan, will remember that defense playing incredibly well against the Packers, only to be demoralized by Aaron Rodgers, and then that incredible game against the Cowboys. So, you get 1 game away from the Super Bowl, and you do the stuff that everyone will remember with an undermanned squad that's injured. Yeah, that's a successful season. Of course it is. Aaron Rodgers should take it as a compliment.
Go ahead, Donovan.
Well, for Aaron Rodgers, their quarterback, I think first and foremost he's going to go into the thought process of we dropped the ball in the NFC Championship. We had a great opportunity. We were rolling. Everything was working in our favor. Our defense was playing pretty well enough to at least win the football game. But offensively, we didn't do what we needed to do against the Atlanta Falcons. He's not going to reflect back on the season of the winning streak in which they had and how hot he was playing at that particular time. He's going to go to the fact that they lost in the NFC Championship and they should have been in the Super Bowl. Now, as far as McCarthy is concerned, he's absolutely right, because in the beginning we were talking about him possibly losing his job, and then we were trying to figure out what's wrong with Aaron Rodgers. People were going to the personal aspect of things. We were talking about he was kind of off-timing with their passing game. They're not running the football. They're putting Montgomery at the running back position because Eddie Lacy can't seem to keep his weight down. But then when you look at the grand scheme of things from an outside standpoint, or from a fan standpoint, yeah, you're going to say they had a successful season because they were depleted in the secondary. Their defense was not the same. Clay Matthews is not the same player. Julius Peppers is getting a little older. So from a defensive standpoint, if you're a Green Bay fan, you're going to say we need to work on getting our defense better. But from an overall standpoint, yes, we did play a lot better and, well, better than expected. We beat the Cowboys, yeah, because we have Aaron Rodgers. That is a luxury that McCarthy understands he has, and he does not want that to go anywhere because it's going to keep his job. When you have Aaron Rodgers, you have a great chance of winning. But from a personal standpoint, from a quarterback standpoint and his mentality, he's not reflecting on the season. He's talking about why they lost that Atlanta game, and he's going to be sick watching that Super Bowl and seeing Atlanta represent the NFC.
I think both of you are being short-sighted here. And the reason I say that is because y'all are looking at it from a micro perspective instead of a macro perspective. From a micro perspective, you've just been in your second NFC Championship game in 3 years. You're looking at the fact that you lost to the Atlanta Falcons. That's where you've been. From a macro perspective, you're saying we have arguably the greatest quarterback, I believe the greatest quarterback talent-wise in history in Aaron Rodgers. We got to a Super Bowl in 2010. We haven't been back since. Who's responsible for that? That's where it gets a little bit tricky, because on one hand, you want to give Mike McCarthy credit, but sometimes you look at the play calling, sometimes you look at his willingness to give up offensive play calling responsibilities before taking it back this season. You're wondering from a big picture what's going on here. Ultimately, you lean on Ted Thompson because here he is, the general manager, and as you pointed out, Donovan McNabb, there's been some questions in terms of their personnel. Certainly, injuries have something to do with it, but on another level, there are personnel decisions that could have been better on a part of your general manager. Not so when it comes to Mike McCarthy. That's not his responsibility. And so when you look at it from that perspective, even though Mike McCarthy doesn't deserve to be gone, he doesn't deserve to be fired, it certainly doesn't deserve to be viewed as failing or anything like that, you do get to a point where you look at the greatness of a quality guy like Aaron Rodgers and ask yourself the question, are we maximizing the opportunity that we have by having this man behind center? That means personnel. That means coaching. That means executives, as in general managers, putting the requisite pieces necessary surrounding that individual. Mike McCarthy is right. They haven't failed, but at the same time, the Green Bay Packers have left you scratching your head at times, wondering, are the right pieces around Aaron Rodgers where we can legitimately say we're maximizing this opportunity?
And then even if they are, they have to be healthy. What I said about earlier in the show about the Patriots defense, part of the reason they're so excellent right now is they're mostly healthy. Green Bay not only had a bad secondary, but then they had a hurt secondary. All of their receivers were hurt, whether some of them were playing or not. They were all hurt and diminished, even the ones who managed to get on the field. And let's not forget, in that NFC Championship game on the road against maybe an historically great offense, we'll find out in the Super Bowl, the Atlanta Falcons, where, in an indoor place, where they, on a fast track with a fast team, where they were favored over Green Bay. Let's not forget, missed field goal fumble in the red zone, receivers consistently dropping passes, or else maybe even then it's a different game. So Aaron Rodgers' greatness elevated this team that really had no business there in the first place. Again, 4-6 at one point, runs the table, goes on the road against that offense, and still, if not for mistakes by everyone on the field except Aaron Rodgers, maybe would have been in that game. I mean, in the NFC Championship game, that's a successful season.
You're absolutely right, Max. But, I look at it in a sense from a quarterback standpoint. You have to look at it at your play as well as the play around you. And you're absolutely right. Yeah, their wide receivers were all beat up and banged up. Offensive linemen even took a hit in the Dallas Cowboy game and Atlanta game. I think for McCarthy at this particular point, he has to reevaluate the whole situation. You're having an older quarterback going into another season in his career. We need to continue to build around him and not ask him to do everything. So now that means on defense, that means special teams. That also means his weapons on the outside. Jordy Nelson was beat up the whole season, recovering from the ACL surgery, and then now the ribs, and then Adams and the ankle. You asking Cobb, who's missed a few games. Jared Cook has been out. So you're talking about weapons that are going in and out each and every week. For a quarterback that you talk about is one of the best quarterbacks in the game, but he needs help. He's getting older. You're asking him to do too much. So this offseason is going to be very big for McCarthy and Ted Thompson, because I think the pressure is not on McCarthy. The pressure, just like you talked about, Stephen, is more on Ted Thompson if they can exert every type of avenue, be able to build more around their starting quarterback.